People say that silence is good. What if I told you that in today's world, silence is the worst thing you can do? When you stay quiet, you're not just avoiding problems, you're taking sides. And sometimes, that side you choose is more dangerous than the truth. You're too scared to speak up. They say silence is good. I've realized that it's often what cowards do. I remember a time in my early 20s when I stood by and didn't say anything. A close friend was blamed for something she didn't do. I would have spoken up. I thought that would make me unpopular with the crowd. I told myself it wasn't my problem and that it was better to stay out of it. But deep down, I knew I was just protecting myself. I let my fear of conflict stop me from saying what was true. We all do this. We stay silent when we are uncomfortable. When something is unfair. When we see a wrong. It doesn't directly affect us. Maybe it's at work. We might see a colleague being mistreated. We're afraid to speak up for them. Maybe it's at home, where speaking out against old family traditions might cause problems. We stay quiet. But here's the truth, silence isn't just avoiding a fight. It's making a choice. Often, that choice is to support the person who's hurting others. The status quo that keeps us all stuck. That makes you uncomfortable. Good. It should. Sometimes. The most dangerous thing we can do is nothing at all. Never remain silent. When your silence would allow ignorance to flourish. It's important to speak up. Ignorance is often more dangerous than malice because it spreads quickly and easily. I learned this the hard way during a heated discussion at a family gathering. The topic turned to climate change. A relative of mine, a well-meaning but deeply misinformed individual, began spouting off conspiracy theories. The climate's always changed, he said, dismissing the overwhelming scientific consensus as nothing more than a hoax designed to control the masses. That I sat there, feeling the tension in the room as the rest of my family nodded in agreement or, worse, stayed silent to avoid confrontation. Part of me, a relative, started talking about conspiracy theories. He said that the climate always changes. He didn't believe the scientific evidence that shows that humans are causing climate change. I felt uncomfortable. I wanted to change the subject. I didn't want to argue. I thought it would ruin the evening. I had to speak up. I explained why climate change is real and why the things this relative said weren't true. It didn't go well. My relative got angry, accusing me of being brainwashed by the system. The rest of my family shifted uncomfortably, wishing I would just drop it. But here's the thing, I wasn't just defending facts. I was standing up against the kind of ignorance that has real-world consequences. Silence in that moment would have been the easy path. It would have also been the wrong one. Allowed a falsehood to go unchallenged and take root in the minds of those around me. Ignorance isn't just about being uninformed, it's about being misinformed. It's dangerous because it leads to decisions and actions that can have devastating consequences. Whether it's refusing to vaccinate, denying climate change, perpetuating harmful stereotypes. This doesn't just happen at family dinners. It happens in classrooms where outdated or biased school programs are taught without question. It happens in workplaces where myths about diversity, equality, inclusion are left unchallenged. It happens on social media where misinformation is shared and amplified, often by those who don't know any better. Here's the controversial truth: staying silent because it's easier. You don't want to cause problems, because you think it's not your place. But that makes you an accomplice in the spread of ignorance. It's hard to accept. Every time we choose silence in the face of ignorance, we're choosing to let that ignorance grow, to let it influence others, To let it shape the world in ways that are often harmful. So, whether it's correcting a friend who believes in a harmful stereotype, challenging a colleague who spreads misinformation at work, even speaking up in a public forum where your voice might not be the loudest, you have a responsibility to speak the truth, yes. It's uncomfortable, yes. It might make you unpopular, but the alternative, allowing ignorance to flourish, is far worse. Ignorance left unchecked can become the breeding ground for intolerance, discrimination, even violence. In a world where information is more accessible than ever, there's no excuse for allowing ignorance to thrive. So speak up. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. That's when it matters most. Point 2, when a friend or family member is engaging in self-destructive behavior. Don't stay silent. A person who is misinformed started talking about conspiracy theories. The climate always changes, he said. He did not believe the scientific agreement that humans are causing climate change. He thought that this agreement was a trick to control people. I felt the tension in the room. My family nodded in agreement. They stayed silent. They did not want to argue. It is bad to be destructive. Imagine you have a close friend who has developed a serious addiction to alcohol. You try to help them. They keep doing things that are bad for them. They do not take care of their responsibilities. They hurt their relationships with other people. Perhaps it's a family member who is in a toxic relationship. They make choices that cause emotional and financial problems. According to Stoic philosophy, if someone you love is hurting themselves, it's not just your personal failure. It's also a moral failure. Stoicism teaches that being brave and honest is part of living a good life. By talking to them about their harmful behavior, you can help guide them back to a path of reason and self. According to Stoic philosophy, if someone you care about is doing things that are hurting them, it's not just about not doing anything. It's about doing the right thing. Stoicism says that being brave and honest is part of being a good person. Even when it's hard. If you talk to the person, you can help them start to feel better and stop doing things that are hurting them. If you don't say anything, it might seem like you're agreeing with them. That might make things worse. Here are some examples from my life that show this. There was Sarah, who had a close friend named Mike who was drinking too much alcohol. Sarah tried to tell him about it and help him. He didn't listen. Sarah felt like she had to choose between doing something to help him or just letting him keep drinking. She chose to talk to him. She told him how she felt and offered to help. It was like connecting Mike with support groups. This decision had consequences. Mike felt attacked and distanced himself from Sarah for a while. Over time, Mike realized that Sarah was sincere and eventually asked for help. Their relationship was difficult. Sarah's help was important for Mike's recovery. John faced a similar situation with his sister. She was in a toxic relationship that was hurting her emotionally and financially. John hesitated to confront her, afraid that his intervention might drive her away. He chose to have an honest conversation with her about her well-being. The best approach is to be supportive and not critical. This led to a heated argument. His sister initially cut off contact. However, John's persistence and compassion helped her see the unhealthy patterns in her relationship, leading her to make positive changes. These examples show the controversial nature of intervening in a loved one's self-destructive behavior. It involves navigating complex emotional landscapes and balancing the potential for personal loss against the moral imperative to act. Stoicism teaches that confronting difficult situations with virtue and courage, even at personal risk, aligns with a higher moral good. By addressing self-destructive behavior, we not only uphold our own integrity, We also have the potential to guide our loved ones toward a healthier path. 3. Never remain silent. When tradition harms more than it preserves. Tradition can be a powerful force grounding us in our cultural heritage and community values. However, traditions that were once meaningful or practical can become harmful and outdated. It's uncomfortable to challenge long-standing customs. Silence in these situations can perpetuate harm and injustice. Why personal experience. Consider a family tradition where every major holiday involves a feast with rich foods and excessive amounts of alcohol. As someone with a history of health issues and a growing concern about the impact of these practices on your destructive behavior can be hard to talk about. We can show our own integrity and help our loved ones be healthier. 3. We never stay silent. When tradition causes more harm than good, we need to change it. Tradition can be a strong force that helps us remember our cultural heritage and community values. Sometimes traditions that were once meaningful or practical can become harmful and outdated. It's hard to challenge long. You might feel torn. Saying something might mean that family gatherings will be different and your loved ones won't be happy. I had a similar problem during a recent family reunion. Our gatherings included a tradition where we exchanged gifts of excessive destructive behavior. We not only uphold our own integrity, we also have the potential to guide our loved ones toward a healthier path. 3. Never remain silent. When tradition harms more than it preserves. Tradition can be a powerful force. It can ground us in our cultural heritage and community values. However, traditions that were once meaningful or practical can become harmful and outdated. It's uncomfortable to challenge long value, often leading to financial strain and stress. As a result, the joy of giving became overshadowed by anxiety about the expense and the expectation to outdo one another. I realized that this tradition, once meant to show affection, was now causing more harm than good. After much thought, I decided to address it. I proposed a new approach, focusing on homemade gifts and shared experiences instead of costly presents. It wasn't an easy conversation. There were objections and some hurt feelings. It eventually led to a healthier, more meaningful way of celebrating that reduced stress and deepened our connections. Some relatable examples are: 1. Cultural practice. In some cultures, certain rites of passage or ceremonies might involve rituals that are physically or emotionally harmful, such as extreme fasting or initiation rites that cause distress. Questioning and potentially modifying these practices can prevent harm while preserving the essence of cultural identity. Workplace norms. Many workplaces have long believed in maintaining our own integrity and guiding our loved ones towards a healthier path. We don't stay silent when tradition causes more harm than good. Tradition can be a strong force that keeps us connected to our culture and community values. Traditions that were once useful or practical can sometimes hurt people and become outdated. It's hard to challenge traditions that might prevent inclusivity or well-being. Like after-hours social events that exclude employees with family commitments or those who don't drink alcohol. Talking about these issues can create a more inclusive and supportive work environment. 3. Educational methods. Schools sometimes keep using old teaching methods or disciplinary practices that no longer help students learn well. Supporting modern approaches or reforms can improve educational results and better meet student needs. 4. Family expectations. Family traditions might require strict gender roles or career paths that limit a person's potential for happiness. Challenging these expectations can allow for greater personal freedom and alignment with contemporary values. 5. Religious customs. Certain religious practices might have once served a specific purpose, now result in discomfort or exclusion. Engaging in thoughtful dialogue about these customs can lead to more compassionate and inclusive practices. Traditions often have a deep emotional and historical significance. When they harm people, they must be questioned. Silence in the face of harmful traditions can mean endorsing practices that no longer serve their intended purpose and that can actively damage individuals' well-being and relationships. Should we challenge them? Not. Speaking up against harmful traditions requires courage. It's about prioritizing human dignity and well-being, and relationships. To challenge or not to challenge. Speaking up against harmful traditions requires courage. It's about prioritizing human dignity and well-being over adherence to outdated practices. It involves navigating the delicate balance between honoring heritage and adapting to evolving values and circumstances. The process may be met with resistance or discomfort. It's crucial for fostering positive change. By addressing traditions that harm more than they preserve, you not only help mitigate suffering, also contribute to creating a more compassionate and adaptable community. Never remain silent. When someone's mental health is deteriorating and everyone looks away. Mental health, often cloaked in silence and stigma, is one of the most vulnerable aspects of our well-being. Being means to not do something when you could help someone in need. When people ignore someone who is struggling with mental health issues, it's not just a missed chance to help. It's also a silent approval of their suffering. Here is a personal example. I remember a time when a close friend of mine, who I had known for years and always seemed happy and friendly, started to stop going to social activities and looked very sad. They also avoided eye contact. When someone's mental health is getting worse and those around them choose to ignore it, it's not just a missed chance to help. It's secretly agreeing with their suffering. My experience. I remember a time when a close friend, who I had known for years as lively and friendly, started to not go to social events and looked sad. They didn't answer messages. Their lively personality disappeared. I was worried. I wasn't sure how to talk about it without seeming rude or making things worse. I was afraid of saying the wrong thing. It wasn't until their situation got really bad that I understood how important it was for me to do something. They had to go to the emergency room. It was a wake-up call for me. I had let my own discomfort and fear prevent me from being there for them when they needed it most. That experience taught me that silence in the face of mental health struggles is not neutrality. It's complicity in the suffering of others. Some relatable examples. 1. In the workplace. They didn't respond to messages anymore. They seemed depressed. I was worried. I didn't know how to talk to them about it. I was afraid of saying the wrong thing. It wasn't until they got really sick that I understood how important it was to do something. They had to go to the emergency room. It was a wake-up call. If you're a teacher and you see that your student is acting strangely, like they're not eating or sleeping, they're acting very upset, you might think you're helping by not saying anything. If you don't talk to them, they might feel alone and suffer more. If you see that a student is struggling, you can try to be there for them. You can ask them if they want to talk about it. You can suggest that they talk to someone else, like a teacher or a friend. 2. In school. If a student isn't doing well, like they're not eating or sleeping, their grades are bad, you might think that they're just trying to get attention. If you don't talk to them, they might feel alone and suffer more. They were ignored by their peers and teachers. Intervention can be scary. Offering support or referring them to counseling services can prevent their mental health from getting worse. 3. In social groups. When a friend starts acting strangely, such as being very happy or sad, Not talking to anyone. Avoiding the topic can make them more distant. Taking the initiative to check in and offer support can be a big step and encourage them to seek help. 4. In family settings. A family member struggling with mental health issues may be met with avoidance or denial from other family members. This silence can worsen their condition, making it vital to address the issue with sensitivity. Offer support or encourage professional help. 5. In community spaces. Observing erratic behavior or signs of mental distress in a community member might lead to avoidance due to discomfort or stigma. Community outreach and support can help bridge this gap. Providing essential resources and understanding. The deep message is in every instance where mental health struggles are met with silence, we are silently endorsing the suffering of others. When we choose to ignore someone's deteriorating mental state, we are failing to recognize the profound interconnectedness of our lives. Each person's we are all connected to each other. We must act together. Our humanity is reflected in how we respond to those who are suffering. When we ignore mental health issues, we perpetuate a cycle of suffering and silence. However, when we choose to confront these challenges with compassion and understanding, we break that cycle. We become agents of healing and hope. We understand that mental health struggles are not just individual battles. Communal responsibilities. 5. We never remain silent. When you witness injustice. Injustice in all its forms thrives in the shadows, where silence becomes its accomplice. Whether it's a subtle act of discrimination, an abuse of power, a blatant violation of rights, injustice should be responded to every time it happens. Many of us are afraid to do something about it. We are afraid of the consequences, or we hope that someone else will do something. When we don't say anything, we allow injustice to continue. I have had this happen to me before. I had a colleague at work who was talented and dedicated. She was consistently overlooked for promotions and important projects. The reason was that she didn't fit the company's image. She didn't fit the mold of a loud or assertive person. It was a subtle form of gender discrimination. Everyone noticed it. But at work, a colleague was consistently overlooked for promotions and important projects. She didn't fit the company's image because she wasn't as loud or assertive as her male counterparts. It was a subtle form of gender discrimination that everyone noticed but no one addressed. I remember feeling conflicted. On one hand, I didn't want to jeopardize my own standing in the company by speaking out. On the other hand, remaining silent felt like a betrayal of my own values and, more importantly, of my colleague, who deserved better. After weeks of inner turmoil, I decided to raise the issue. I told our HR department about the pattern of discrimination I had seen. They supported me. Some people praised me. Others did not. The important thing was that people could now see the problem. People started talking about it. It led to a new way of doing things. The HR department pointed out a pattern of discrimination. People had different reactions. Some praised my courage, while others saw me as a troublemaker. The important thing was that the injustice was no longer hidden. It started conversations and led to a more inclusive approach to promotions and project assignments within the team. The important message is that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. When you witness injustice and choose silence, you become part of the system that allows it to thrive. It's not just about the immediate wrong you're witnessing. It's about the precedent you set for yourself. It's important to speak up when you see something unfair. Your actions might inspire others to do the same. Every time you speak out, you create a ripple effect of positive change. When you stay silent, you become part of the system that allows unfairness to continue. It's not just about the immediate wrong you're witnessing, it's also about the example you set for yourself and the people around you. Your silence can encourage the person doing the unfairness and make the victim feel disheartened. This can create an environment where unfairness feels safe and cannot be stopped. The call to courage, speaking out against unfairness, is rarely easy. It requires courage to stand against the tide, especially when the unfairness is subtle, systemic. Social norms are deeply ingrained. It's precisely in these moments that your voice is most needed, whether you're directly confronting the wrongdoer, supporting the victim, bringing attention to the issue through other means. Your actions can inspire others to do the same, creating a ripple effect of positive change. Silence is often seen as the safe, easy choice, a way to avoid conflict, keep the peace, maintain relationships. But the uncomfortable truth is that silence in the face of wrong is far from neutral. It's a decision with consequences. A choice that can perpetuate harm. Allow ignorance to flourish. Let injustice thrive if you stay silent. You're not just avoiding discomfort. You're also indirectly agreeing with the current situation, even if it's flawed or harmful. Whether it's facing ignorance, harmful traditions, declining mental health, injustice. Your silence can make you an accomplice to these wrongs. On the other hand, when you speak up, you take a stand not just for yourself, for others who may not have the power, voice, courage to do so. Speaking out isn't just about addressing a single wrong, it's about creating a ripple effect. Your voice can inspire others to speak up as well, creating a culture where truth, justice, fairness are respected. It's important to be compassionate and courageous. Small acts of courage can add up to make a big difference. For example, you can correct misinformation at a family dinner, support a friend struggling with mental health, challenge a harmful tradition at work. These moments might seem small. They add up to create a better world. We need more people to speak up. Silence might protect you in the short term. It won't protect you in the long term. In the short term, it might seem like you're only witnessing one injustice. It actually affects our society's values in the long run. On the other hand, speaking out reinforces our shared values of truth, justice, empathy. You might worry that your voice is too small to make a difference, that your actions won't change anything, but history is full of examples where individuals who chose to speak up, often at great personal risk, sparked movements that changed the world, from civil rights to gender equality, from environmental justice to mental health awareness. Progress has always been driven by those who refuse to remain silent. The legacy you leave is shaped by the choices you make in these critical moments. You will be remembered for your decision to speak up or to stay silent. Your decision to speak out is important. It is important because it sets a precedent for the future. It is also important because it teaches the next generation that silence in the face of injustice is a bad thing. It's important to remember that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. If you see something unfair and you don't say anything, you're helping to keep it going. It's not just about the immediate wrong you're seeing, it's about setting a precedent for yourself. Remember that the world is shaped not just by those who do wrong, also by those who allow wrong to be done. Your silence or your voice both have power. One keeps things the way they are, the other challenges it and pushes humanity forward. So, when you have to choose between not saying anything and saying something, choose to say something. Your voice might be the thing that makes people change, the hand that reaches out to save someone, the truth that shows people the truth. In the end, it's not the silence that we regret. The moments when we had the chance to say something and chose not to. Make sure that when those moments come, you choose to be brave instead of comfortable. To take action instead of not doing anything. To say something instead of staying silent.